Okay, so the first problem was pretty much asking for the derivative of this sort of complicated function. And my first step was just to rewrite the function so that I would just have exponents instead of the square root to sort of make things easier. And then basically I would just be plugging in a product rule with sort of a chain rule inside of the product rule. So for my product rule, I had first part times the derivative of the second part, and then there was the chain rule in here, and then it was plus the second part times the derivative of the first part. And then once I had that, basically I could just combine, sort of multiply terms that could go together and sort of simplify out my final product rule form, which would look like so: 30x to the 3/2 times 5x squared minus 1 to the squared plus 5x squared minus 1 to the third times 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. Okay, number 2 was a longer problem, and I won't have time to explain as thoroughly, but it gave me these three things, and the first thing I did was I set the second derivative up with c so that I could find the first derivative, and I could find c as well in terms of the first derivative. So I set up my problem as so, and I kept on going, simplifying things out. I had my fractions, and I plugged in 8 because that's what I was given to find c, and I was able to find that c equals negative 206 over 3. Here were my fractions again. And basically then I moved on to find, to plug in for my first function, where I did the same thing again, where I was basically simplifying this out and trying to find c, and I plugged in 1 because that's what I was given on the first page, to find that my new c would be this complicated fraction. And then since it was asking for what the function is, we could just plug in that for c in the final equation, or the function would be f of x equals 16 over 7 to the 7th x to the 7th third minus 2 over 3x to the third plus 3 over 2x to the second minus 206 over 3x minus 2699 over 42. Okay, for number 3, the first thing I was asked to do was basically write out my integral, and I wrote it out there, and then I was told to sketch it where I did here. That was part A. Part B, I was told to find it using geometry. Basically, I just did my two triangles and added together to find the area. I did 1/2 base times height for both of these, plugged it into my equation, and I got 50 units squared. And then for C, we were doing the same thing of finding the area, but we were actually solving out the integrals. So I wrote out my two integrals here. And once I wrote them out, I could basically start plugging in, or basically finding the antiderivative inside of the integrals. And then I could plug in my numbers. So I just pretty much plugged my numbers into my solved out problem and was able to add them together all at the end to get, yet again, 50 units squared. And for the final one, number 4, I was asked to write out the integral based on the graph, which was on the screen. And so basically I wrote out my integral here, and then I could either solve it geometrically or just solve out the integral like I did on the last one. So I just decided to do that. And basically what I did was the same thing. I found the antiderivative of the integrals parts, and then I just plugged in my numbers, which were 2 and negative 2. And they started simplifying. The 1/2s canceled, and I was able to get 8 minus minus, which is plus 8 equals 16 units squared for my final area.